When I woke up this morning, the clouds darkened the sky behind my eyes. The brilliant sun eclipsed by a storm only I had the privilege of seeing. I remember looking into the mirror and seeing it ripple, liquid silver rings waving ever so gently across the surface. I reached out to touch. The tips of my fingers barely grazed the surface when my own hand reached through the glass, gripped my wrist like a vice. I jerked back, and she used my movement to propel herself into my world. I stared as she stood, draped in a dress of silken black. Our hair was the same, nails painted the same shade of orange, exact down to the last glittery speck. She raised her head and our eyes met. What unholy glowing peeked from behind her irises, one black, the other white? The Chinese have a philosophy called yin and yang. The translation? Dark, bright. Negative, positive. Good and bad. Order and chaos. This way of thinking is imprinted onto daily life. There is good in the bad, and there is bad in the good, and there is both in her eyes. Who is this mirror image of myself? I can't help but stare longingly, trying to understand who she is and from whence she came. Her laugh is like a twisted song, beautiful at first, but distorting, changing, becoming darker as it goes on. The house melts away. Suddenly we're standing in a room with no walls, a spotlight raining on us from above, drenching us in the only light for miles. Only then do I start to see the differences. Her hand, still wrapped around my wrist, too thin, too delicate. The bones in her fingers threaten to break the tightly stretched skin at her knuckles. Her skin is pale, nearly the color of the moon, undertones, hues of blues, translucent in such a way that I can trace the deep violet of her veins down her hand, up her arm, across her breast, and back to her heart. My eyes are drawn to her face. It's like mine, only prettier, thinner, daintier. There's something eerie in her presence. In a frenzy, I quickly survey the rest of her. My eyes take her in. Her framework sticks out like a sore thumb. There is nothing to her. She is human air, light. When she moved, she barely made a sound. As I took her in, I could feel the beginning of blooming buds of jealousy bursting in my chest. Jealousy, envy. I coveted her body. I wanted her grace. Like a viper, I lunged, sunk my teeth into the nape of her neck. With every bite of her flesh, I grew hungrier. I swallowed nothing. Her wicked laugh rang in my ears as I drank her in like water. If this is beauty, I will achieve it at any cost. I devoured her skin like crust strips dissolving on my teeth. I used her bones as toothpicks, something to keep my teeth busy whilst I ignored the aching hunger in my stomach. Her blood ran crystal clear. I drank, gulped, filled my empty belly, but still I grew hungrier. I could feel myself becoming her. Pounds falling off, skin growing pale, cheeks sinking in. I could feel my ribs peek through as I hunched over her body. With every bite, I could feel myself growing thinner, lighter, daintier, prettier. At last, when her body was no more, I stood. I was back in my room, staring naked at my own reflection. My skeletal frame shined back at me, singing, "Look how beautiful I am." And I was. Bony beautiful. I was an artist, and my body was the canvas draped in crimson lines of poetry dripping down my thighs, a new poem for every caloric intake. I would be beautiful no matter what it took. I devoured myself, starving artist, starving for her work, for her right to true beauty. I looked at my body, stared at all the work I did. My mind calculated how much poetry I should write that night, with silver pens full of scarlet ink. And as I thought, my vision grew dark. I fell, consumed by the weight of my own body, no longer able to support itself. When I awoke, everything was white. Doctors in white, sheets white. My mother's tears shone in the fluorescent light from the ceiling. Unhealthy, they called me. What does health matter when beauty is at stake? Close to death. No, I was close to perfection. They force-fed me lies about my own body, insulted me with words like frail, underweight, sick, force-fed me poison for my art. I tried to refuse, but I couldn't even lift my hand to remove the tube from my nose. Months flew by. My work was destroyed. I returned to what I was before, still thin, but ugly. Fat. Scarred. Fat. Flawed. Fat. When I looked at my body, I used to see pretty, I used to see thin, I used to see beautiful. Now I only see numbers, corrections to be made. Then I remember my mother's tears, her crackling voice begging me to stop, so I ignore the numbers. I ignore the weight of what I used to be, of what I could be again. I vow to never go back. I looked in the mirror today. The glass ripped, and that other me, that beautiful me, that skeletal me, stared back. I did not reach out for her again. Hey guys, thank you so much for watching my videos. I really appreciate it. Feel free to go ahead and comment, like, share, and subscribe. Speaking of subscribing, if you'd like to do that, you can go ahead and click on over here. And if you want to see my most recent video, go ahead and click over here. Thank you!